Hello. Ooh, I'm a minute late. I was standing there talking to my husband. Came in here. Oops. Lost track time. Hello, hello. Hi, Diana. Cricket. But is there a free personality test? We could go over one. I have a box of them. I did try to start reading it, and I was gonna. It's 200 questions. Did you know that? 200 questions that people have to go in there for. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was running around late. So I'm adjusting my stimulator in my back. I tried to do it yesterday, but it died on me. It's still not connecting. But yeah, so funny enough, I didn't realize I hadn't pre scheduled this. So we're now in a new book. We're in book 3. Look at what that jerk called it. But if you use that term now, don't you get in trouble for that? $10 and I'll read your fortune too. There you go. Bonus. Okay. All right, got my other glasses. Turn down the phone so nobody will interrupt. Alrighty. I'll give it another couple minutes. Scooter Mom, did you get any sleep? I did. I slept till 10. Ooh, last night was long, but it was fun. If y'all didn't watch my late night stream, we went 5 hours. 5 hours. Goodness. And then my husband came home at 7, and I guess I did wake up. I do remember vaguely talking to him, and he said he was mid-sentence and I was asleep. I fell asleep. I couldn't wake up. I'm like, yeah, I'd probably only been asleep, 4 hours at that point. So, but it was fun. I wouldn't have stayed that long if it wasn't fun or interesting. Let's see, how long have we been on? I'm going to give it till the 5-minute mark. That'll give 5 minutes for people to come in. I didn't realize, I thought I pre scheduled this last week. 3 of those hours in the bathroom. I did have to get up a few times. I'm surprised I made it as long as I did. My bladder is like the size of a pea. Like, no, I just had to go to the bathroom. In 5 hours, you got to take a tinkle break. She's just exaggerating. It's okay. But I woke up at 1 a.m. here. Oh, goodness. That happens to me. Oh, I'm about to do bad things to my little puppy because it does not matter what time I go to sleep. It's usually 2, 3 in the morning. That little blankety blank waits 1 hour and wakes me up to go out. Because I'm on a weird schedule. They're not either. But she's done it every night for like a week. Okay, so you're an hour later in Massachusetts. Yeah. Oh, so are you? Aren't Scooter Mom? Aren't you an hour later too? So you got to bed later than I did. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that wasn't unusual for me to be honest. But that little blankety blank better stop waking me up, or she's gonna get left outside at night. The only reason I don't do that because that's when it's cooler for them. Because it's so hot during the day, they go out, they come back. That's it. But they would bark and keep my neighbors awake. So that's why I thought, yeah, you're an hour later. So, all right, I think that's enough time. We're going to get right into this. So, this is computer glasses. This is reading glasses. There we go. All righty. So, we're in book 3. We were farther along than I thought. Look at that. We're halfway because we know there's a bunch in the back here that isn't readable. But I did not know book 3 was going to be called Therapy. So I'm interested, and it's chapter 1 is called The Mind's Protection. And like I tell you guys, I don't pre-read these anymore. Oh, it's not very long at all. Oh, this is a short. Holy crap. This is only 5 pages. We'll see how long the next chapter is. It's short too. I think we're going to do 2 chapters. And then, holy crap, they're all short. So the next chapter after that's called Release or Clear. And then the one after that is called The Auditor's Role. So I think we're going to do 2 chapters. They're very short. Everyone ready for the Oh No Cybernetics today? All right, steel yourselves. Oh, I get what you mean now. Oh no, Dianetics. I thought you were being funny with the C. Okay. The Mind's Protection. You know what? I forgot my biotine again. All right, there we go. The mind's protection. The mind is a self-protecting mechanism short of the use of drugs as in narcosynthesis, shock, hypnotism, or surgery. No mistake can be made by an auditor which cannot be remedied either by himself or by another auditor. I think everybody in here knows what an auditor is. He has it at the bottom if you need me to read it. Those things which are stressed then in this book are ways to accomplish therapy as swiftly as possible with minimal errors, for errors take time. Auditors are going to make errors. That is inevitable. If they make the same error repeatedly, they had better get someone to guide them through therapy. So they're calling auditing therapy in Dianetics. Okay. If that helps you get through it, Diana. So I mean, it's kind of what we know now and how they think about this stuff that he actually used these terms. But he does, I mean, he does call this, an alternate therapy. Okay, there are probably thousands of ways to get into trouble with mental healing, but all these ways can be classed in these groups. 1, use of shock or surgery on the brain. 2, use of strong drugs. 3, use of hypnosis as such. And 4, trying to crossbreed Dianetics with older forms of therapy. That's interesting. The mind will not permit itself to be seriously overloaded so long as it can retain partial awareness of itself. It can only be overloaded when its awareness is reduced to a point where it cannot evaluate anything. It can then be thoroughly upset. Now remember, we talked before about how he said if your mind gets restimulated enough, overloaded enough, that it shuts down to a point that you can't even think right. And that's how he gets into their mind, and how he mind controls them. So again, he's talking about how he's going to do that stuff. Don't put that in my head. Oh my goodness, you're terrible. So overloaded when its awareness is reduced to a point where it cannot evaluate anything. So that's kind of similar to what he said before. Dianetic reverie. The state of reverie is actually just a name. It is a label introduced to make the patient feel that his state has altered and that he has gone into a state where his memory is very good, or where he can do something he couldn't ordinarily do before. The actuality is that he is able to do it all the time anyway. It is not a strange state. the person is wide awake, but merely by asking him to close his eyes, he is technically in reverie. That is a long definition for one word. So, Dianetic reverie leaves a patient fully aware of everything which is taking place and with full recall of everything which has happened. Types of therapy which do not do this are possible and useful, but they must be approached with the full knowledge that they are not foolproof. Dianetics then uses the reverie for the majority of its work. Now, that's interesting. Hi, Irish Mark. I forgot to turn down the fan before I started. That's better. That is a weird word, a weird way to put it. I'm sure he's going to expound on it some more. Yeah. Yep. We know he's done it and he's put it into the training in Scientology. So, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good question. It's actually OT3. They call it the Wall of Fire. OT3 is when they find out about Xenu and the Galactic Federation. And I think they lose a lot of people, at least mentally at that point. But if you're already at OT3, as a public especially, you're in it by then. So a lot, Leah Remini mentioned it. She said she got to there and she was like, what the F is this? And I think mentally that's when she became what we call under the radar Scientologist. But they can't leave because their friends, family, job, and everything is involved in Scientology. So yeah, I think he let his sci-fi imagination go a little bit too far. And most people can't deal with that. Yeah, it doesn't. I like what Aaron says. He says, just don't think too deeply. As long as you don't, and they don't let you. That's why the atmosphere is the way it is they don't let you have an original thought. If you do or you mention it in auditing or anything, they come down on you hard. So even if you are thinking things, you can't say it out loud. So that's how they make sure nobody talks to anybody else. Because if 3 or 4 people got together and said, hey, did you know about this? What is going on? I don't agree with this, or this sounds weird, and they started talking, can't do that because somebody will snitch on you. All right, let's keep going. Where were we? Dianetics then uses the reverie for the majority of its work, and using the reverie, an auditor cannot possibly get himself into any trouble from which he cannot extricate himself and the patient. He is working with an almost foolproof mechanism as long as the mind retains some awareness. A radio or a clock or an electric motor are far more susceptible to injury in the hands of a workman than the human mind. The mind was built to be as tough as possible. It will be found that it is difficult to get it into situations which make it uncomfortable and impossible. I disagree. With the reverie to embroil it enough to cause neurosis or insanity. Well, I think I speak for all of us when I disagree. That your mind is tough as possible and won't let you get into uncomfortable or impossible situations. That's not so. No, I think sometimes. I mean, if you don't already know about a situation or how to react in a situation, you don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I see what you're singing. You're going to get those songs in my head, Diana. Yeah, but he twist things to support what he's trying to get people into. So, all right. In the U.S. Infantry Manual, there is a line about decision. Any plan, no matter how poorly conceived, if boldly executed, is better than inaction. I'll have to ask my husband if that's in there. He's asleep. He should be asleep. In Dianetics, any case, no matter how serious, no matter how unskilled the auditor, is better opened than left closed. Kind of makes sense. It's better. Okay, he says it. It is better to start therapy if it is to be interrupted after 2 hours of work than to not to start therapy at all. I actually agree with that statement. You guys. So, I mean, I do agree with that. I hope it's not getting too cold in hell right now because I said that. All right. It is better to contact an engram than to leave an engram uncontacted, even if the result is physical discomfort for the patient, for that engram will not thereafter possess as much power and the discomfort will gradually abate. This is scientific fact. Every time he says scientific fact, I think I get a little bit sick. And I like to mark it. This is scientific fact. The mechanism Dianetics uses is an ability of the brain which man as a whole did not know he had. It is a process of thought which everyone possesses inherently and which was evidently meant to be used in the overall process of thinking, but which by some strange oversight man has never before discovered. Once a person has learned that he possesses just this one new faculty, he is better able to think than he was before, and he can learn this faculty in 10 minutes. Further, when one approaches an engram with this faculty, which when intensified is the reverie, some of that engram's sub-level connections are broken, and the aberrative factors no longer have as much force either in the physical or mental spheres. Further, the knowledge that there is a solution to mental ills is a stabilizing factor. That right there, that sentence, is what we have talked about even before we started reading. That, or we've said all along, that that's how he's getting people into this, is that he's telling them that there's a solution to their mental ills. And he's going to help. He's going to fix it. Dianetics will fix everything. And I think that's how many, 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 many people were sucked into this. And then if you think about it, if you go in with mental ills, you're susceptible possibly to, control or falling into his, how do I want to say it? I didn't want to say mind control, but you kind of know. So then after they're in, because we're like, okay, they get in, why do they stay? Well, if you're bringing in people that have needs and want help, and they come and they find a group and they feel comfortable and they're told that they're going to help, trap is a good word. Yeah, trap. They fall into the trap and they were in need and they're kind of finding something that's going to fill that need. The sad part is then they get their kids and then they get their kids involved. Hi, AA. Good person to have. Yes, I was on antidepressants when Scientology got a hold of me. I'm surprised they took you in. I know, I think it just depends. I think it depends. Put on, yeah. But yeah, that's exactly it. So all through this book, he has said, I'm gonna fix you. This is what's wrong with you, which nobody understands his babble, but it sounded good, right? It always sounds good. That's the only thing that man succeeded in his whole life, was being able to make things sound good. Glad you're here. So this is a short chapter. We may go on to the next. We'll see. Approaching an engram with the reverie is very far from the same as restimulating the engram exteriorly as is done in life. The engram is a powerful and vicious character only so long as it is untapped, in place, and active. It can be restimulated to cause innumerable mental and physical ills. Now, as we've talked before, he's saying like what he's actually going to do. I'll go. The power of the engram. Oh, say, wait a minute. Back up. But approaching it with reverie is approaching it on a new circuit, one that disarms it. The power of the engram is partly the fear of the unknown. Knowing brings stability itself. Okay, that whole paragraph there. Um, Again, he's saying it can be restimulated to cause innumerable mental and physical ills, and we know that the whole atmosphere, especially Sea Organ staff, is a restimulating environment. And then the fear of the unknown. So hold on, let me switch glasses so I don't have to look up my nose. Hang on. The screen is just too far away for my prescriptions. If they're not prescribed by a psych, you can get by. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. They went against their own policies and took me in session when I was under the antidepressants. That's interesting. We know that they have rules, but they don't always follow them the way they should. I was trying to scroll. Sorry. Yeah, that's surprising actually, AA. So, did you have to go off them though, or were you still taking them? I think they have rules, but I think everybody's in their own org area, whatever. And I think to get numbers, that they're willing to flub the rules. That's not the word I want. They're willing to circumvent the rules, I think, to bring people in, hoping that Scientology will help you get off of them, I assume. I'm just thinking. Do not think that you will not make patients uncomfortable. That is not true. The auditor's work, when it taps engrams which cannot be lifted, may cause the patient to have headaches, various aches and pains, and even mild physical illness, even when the work is carefully done. But life has been doing this to the patient on a much grander scale for years, and no matter how badly the case is mauled around, no matter how many aberrations spring into view to plague the patient for a day or two, none are as serious as those which can be occasioned by the environment acting upon the untapped engram. Ah, AA said, they got me to stop. It was not a good idea. I know. And I've done that by accident before. You can't go cold turkey. And I experienced very bad side effects from suddenly going off there. Yeah. I was on Paxil years ago. I'm on something better now. And if I didn't take that pill, this is why I went off it. I didn't like how it worked. It didn't work for me. Like if I took it at noon yesterday, if I didn't take it at noon the next day, if it was a couple hours late, I already started to feel weird. And I didn't like it. And then I had to go cold turkey a couple times. I ran out, and I finally just went off. I said, you need to find me something else. This does not work. So, yeah, I figured that's what happened. Yeah, it's not comfortable. I felt all yucky and buzzy and just just really bad. So, yeah, you should never go cold turkey on anything. Okay. You know what I was thinking during this paragraph too? I'm picturing these young kids that are auditors doing this. This is kind of a major thing with an adult trying to cure their engrams or their therapy. I mean, this is kind of a serious issue. And you've got teenagers that are the auditors that have this pressure on them to help this person or work with this person or listen to this person for however many hours you're stuck in that room. So that I was thinking that the whole time. The auditor can do everything backwards, upside down, and utterly wrong, and the patient will still be better, provided only that he does not try to use drugs before he has worked a few cases, that he does not use hypnotism as hypnotism, and he does not try to cross Dianetics with some older therapy. He can use drugs in Dianetics if he knows his Dianetics and if he has a medical concurrence. Really? That's news. He can use all the techniques of hypnotism so long as he is thoroughly experienced with Dianetics. So he's saying you can use drugs and hypnotism with Dianetics. I know that changed, but this was 1950, so I'm surprised that he said that. Hmm. That's an interesting couple sentences there. And once he has used Dianetics, he will not fall back to mystic efforts to heal minds. In short, the point which is offered here is that so long as the auditor takes a relatively simple case at first to see how the mechanisms of the mind work and uses only the reverie, he cannot get into trouble. There will be those, certainly, who believe they are so vastly experienced in tom-tom beating or gourd rattling that they won't give Dianetics a chance to work as Dianetics, but will sail in and begin to plague the patient about penis envy or make him repent his sins. But the patient who starts to get this will be smart to simply change positions from the couch to the auditor's chair and clear up some of the aberrations of the auditor before work proceeds. Anybody who has read this book once through and procured a patient with sonic recall for a trial effort will know more about the mind in those actions than he has ever known before, and he will be more skilled and able to treat the mind than anyone attempting to do so, regardless of reputation, a very short while ago. This does not mean that men who have had experience with mental patients will not, knowing Dianetics, knowing have an edge on those who do not realize some of the foibles of which man in an aberrated state is capable. And on the other hand, it does not mean that some engineer or lawyer or cook with a few Dianetic cases under his belt will not be more skilled than all other practitioners of whatever background or kind. In this case, the sky is no limit. One could not say offhand that an able hypnotist or an able psychologist, ready and willing to jettison and unlearn yesterday's mistakes, is not better prepared to practice Dianetics. In the field of psychosomatic medicine, the medical doctor with a vast fund of experience in healing might very well be far and above other auditors in Dianetic work, but it is not necessarily the case. For in research, it has been proven that men and women with most unlikely professional backgrounds have suddenly become auditors superior in skill to those in fields you might suspect were more closely allied. Engineers, particularly, are excellent material and make excellent auditors. Again, Dianetics is not being released to a profession, for no profession could encompass it. It is insufficiently complicated to warrant years of study in some university. It belongs to man, and it is doubtful if anyone could manage to gain a corner on it, for it does not fall within any legislation of any kind in any place. Long sentences. If Dianetics were legislated into a licensed profession, then it is to be feared that listening to stories and jokes and personal experience would also have to be legislated into a profession. Okay. Such laws would put all men of goodwill who lend a sympathetic ear to a friend's troubles inside the barbed wire. Dianetics is not psychiatry. It is not psychoanalysis. It is not psychology. It is not personal relations. It is not hypnotism. It is a science of mind and needs about as much licensing and regulation as the application of the science of physics. Those things which are legislated against are a matter of law because they may in some way injure individuals or society. Legislation exists about psychoanalysis in some 3 states in the Union. Legislation against or about psychiatry exists everywhere. If an auditor wishes to constitute himself a psychiatrist with the power of vivisecting human brains, if he wants to constitute himself a doctor and administer drugs and medicines, as if he wants to, dang it, this old book wants to stick. If he wants to practice hypnotism and pour suggestions into a patient, then he must square it with psychiatry, medicine, and the local laws about hypnotism, for he has entered other fields than Dianetics. In Dianetics, hypnotism is not used. I disagree. No brains are operated upon and no drugs are given unless the local medico is part of the staff. Dianetics is not in any way covered by legislation anywhere, for no law can prevent one man sitting down and telling another man his troubles. And if anyone wants a monopoly on Dianetics, be assured that he wants it for reasons which have to do not with Dianetics but with profit. Well, who has a monopoly on Dianetics? Dude, projecting. There are not enough psychiatrists in the country to begin to staff the mental institutions. Surely this generation, particularly with all the, oh my God, I can't read that word, iatrogenic work. All right, iatrogenic means illness generated by doctors. An operation during which the doctor's knife slipped and accidentally harmed the patient might cause an iatrogenic illness or injury, since the fault would have been with the surgeons. All right. I'm almost done this chapter, and then we'll go through the comments. So we just said anyone that wants a monopoly in Dianetics only wants to for profit. Oh no, I did read more than that. Surely this generation, particularly with all the iatrogenic work which has been done, will continue to need those institutions and will need psychiatrists. Their field is the treatment of the insane by definition, and that has nothing to do with thee or me. In psychology, Dianetics drops into line without disturbing anything concerned with staffs or research or teaching posts. For psychology is simply the study of the psyche, and now that there exists a science of the psyche, it can go ahead with a will. Thus, Dianetics is the enemy of none, and Dianetics falls utterly outside all existing legislation, none of which anticipated or made any provision for a science of mind. I do know that I don't know where, I don't know if it was here or somewhere else, that I think the reason, one of the reasons Dianetics turned into Scientology is they censored him for using medicine without a license. Something actually happened. I'll have to look it up. I've read it before. And I think that was a partial reason of why things changed. So, all right, let me. So, it was interesting that that chapter went into legislation a lot. Yeah, you're killing me with that song, Diana. Yep. He says we're not using hypnotism, but yet they are. Yeah, sales pitch, and he wants to make darn sure nobody legislates it in any way, I think. Yeah, he lost the rights for sure. But there was somewhere, it might not even been the States. I talked about it before. I can't think of it right now. But pretty much, yeah. Oh, no problem. Like I said, I would never have been able to read this by myself. Yeah. Because I can imagine being in. Not everybody that went in read Dianetics first. Tell me, do all Scientologists have to read Dianetics, or is that kind of like a choice? Like if you just go into Scientology, is it something people read a lot? Oh, the Cinderella's. Yeah, Cinderella's here. I missed you. Oh, well, hello. Sorry, I missed you. So I'm curious about that. Oh, I know. Me too, for sure. Because we get to talk about it. If you're just by yourself, who are you going to talk to about it? Not all have read Dianetics. That I was curious about because they really do push selling it. Yep, yep. We figured that out just a few chapters in. Yep, that he was weaponizing trauma. He was causing trauma, and then so that if you didn't have your own trauma already, he traumatizes you in the way you're treated, or uses your own trauma, and then because of the environment that he has created, he's constantly re-stimulating, or what people call triggering traumas, and putting you in this state where you just cannot think for yourself. And that's why there's a lot of people that haven't done the deep dives that some of us have done, that do listen, do support, like the bigger channel, like Aaron's channel, the bigger channels. They probably don't watch a lot of other people. There's different kinds of supporters, what I'm saying. They may not have done as much of a deep dive. I had a point there. Oh, there are people in the chat sometimes that are like, how are they so dumb to get into this? And I don't subscribe to that theory or thought, because I don't think that has anything to do with it at all. I think he takes advantage of people in need. Some people don't even know they're that in need. They're just drawn. And then he gets you in there. Well, he's not there anymore, but they get you in there. And now you're not allowed to talk to people. You're not allowed to look at the internet. You're not allowed to say anything boo about anything, or somebody will write a KR on you, right? So you can't speak your mind. Jenna Miscavige said if you make a friend and you have a good friend, they will separate you. So you can't even be friendly in Scientology. So, oh, I see. You're lurking, Cinderella. Trained scientists will read it, but not public who pay for auditing. Yeah, I think if the public read this book, I'd be surprised. The writer A.E. Van Gogh, I remember that name, was an interesting guy. He was a Dianeticist who refused to move to Scientology. Really? I hadn't delved into those other people because I didn't want to go, off on other tangents. So I know he was mentioned. I don't know anything about him, but that's interesting because it did change a lot. Oh yeah, exactly. I don't either. You know. Oh hey, Cece. I tried very hard several times, including taking a course on it. It is required to do the solo course prior to the OT levels. I applied a few bits of reasoning and said I'd done it. Yeah. Yeah, anyone is vulnerable in certain circumstances. To say otherwise misunderstands those hurt by it. Yes. Um, yeah, they trigger you first before getting you in. When you are triggered, you can't think logically. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that was the biggest eye opener that you don't get tech, not sure the word I want, that you don't get from watching, channel survivors talk, because some of those survivors can't even put into words what they've been through. And again, a lot of those were brought in as kids. They didn't have a choice. I'm picturing more the person that read this and then joined on their own, like the first generations, is kind of who I'm really thinking of when I'm looking at this book. And then, or adult children that went in on their own, I guess. But in general, it's all a mind game. If you haven't watched my video, oh, I left my notebook in the car, about the black magic, I end it with this statement. And this is something that I think L. Ron Hubbard said. See if I can remember. It was long. He said, we're playing a game. Everyone is playing a game. There are pieces, and the pieces cannot know the rules of the game. Then you have players. I'm probably saying this wrong. Then you have players. Players, I think I was looking for it. You have players. Players can't let the pieces know the rules of the game. Right now, the player is David Miscavige, and the pieces are all of Scientology. Then you have the game maker, and the game maker doesn't have to follow the rules. Remember how many times we talked about how LRH doesn't follow the rules? He took psych drugs. He had sex outside of marriage when he was in Jack Parsons' cult, I guess. So I mean, he never followed his own dang rules. So he's the game maker. He laid out the game. He wrote it down. That's what this book is. Wow, you are actually the person I would love to talk to. The Because that's the people I try to picture is 50s, 60s, 70s when you couldn't, go anywhere to investigate what you were reading or if this was legit. There's really nowhere for you to go unless you were a journalist or a professor that had access, I guess. I don't know. Um but yeah, those are the people that I most think about, is that time when also I'm assuming I was born in 69, so a lot of this is assumption, but that mental health wasn't really talked about in general to in a group of people. So people I know in 50s and 60s, especially like a housewife that had depression, who's she going to turn to? And back then psychiatry was scary, as nobody wanted to go into an asylum. um hmm I like that. That goes very well with that other comment. To make a piece continue to be a piece, permit it to associate only with pieces and deny the existence of players. Yep. LRH actually said about never playing in other people's games, but to make your own game. Yep. Um, I was hooked without the personality test or reading Dianetics. I was in such bad shape prior, I thought the CIA were chasing me. Too many drugs, possibly. Scientology fixed me. Yeah, that definitely people like that too. You don't have to read Dianetics, you know. Um, it's just because we're reading Dianetics. But yeah, you don't have to read Dianetics to want to be part of something. What was funny in the early 90s when we got stationed in California, we saw some sort of advertisement. All I remember is the volcano. My husband said, "That sounds interesting." We just thought it was not really a religion, it was just about science. And we liked stuff like that. And we were looking for a new church at the time. I hadn't been to church since I was 18. And we never did find one in California. Funny enough, the church we had decided to go to one Sunday got shot up the night before, had bullet holes in it, and we didn't go. So, but yeah, I mean, I can see how people in any kind of need. That's why I'm protesting where I'm protesting, because it's across from the University of Texas campus. And he did that on purpose. LRH bought that building 55 years ago. He bought it. It was not an ideal org because, okay, so 80% of the young people that go by me know Scientology is bad. But then you get that 20% who are alone for the first time, that classes just started, they're away from home, and they meet a body router somewhere on campus, giving them a personality test, and they bring them in and they love bomb them. It can happen. They had a guy. I need to snippet that out. I need to cut it out. They had a young man who was a freshman. They had him bamboozled when I walked up, and I started giving him the facts, and you could see the change in his face. And he laughed, but it was that kind of laugh like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this," and kind of ran off. So they still can get people. They still, I know what you meant. Um, yep, I believe it, because so was the other one. He was just expounding on the other quote. Yeah, yeah, I can see why that would happen. Oh, yeah, yeah, I guess it's just the way I am. Uh, early on, I mentioned if I'd ever got to go to college, I wanted to go into, before I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to go into psychology research. I was very interested in like serial killers, psychopaths, sociopaths. I never get those right, one of those. And I wanted to go into like looking at their brain and seeing if there was a difference in their brain. This was back in the 80s. So we have a lot of that now. And we know now there is a difference. Or sometimes those people fell as a child and injured a part of their brain. Um, yep. Nibs, his son, said also that Scientology was black magic, but done slowly. So that's why I delved into that just a little bit. Oh, I hope so. I really hope he listened and didn't come back. But he was just having a conversation just like we are. This animation I have because I'm interested in what you guys are saying. It was like that. So I knew they were having this, you know, intense conversation when I came up. They were closing up their table, but he was talking to him. And all I said was, why do you think they're here? I said Scientology. I think I said Scientology's cult. I said, why do you think they're here? And he just regurgitated what they told him. He said, well, they want to be part of the community. And he said something else I can't remember. And then I said, no, no, no. And I started telling him as many facts as I could get in before he ran off. And I really need to go. I'm going to do that today. I'm going to go in and cut that out and put that on because that is what they do. Yep. Yeah. And the sad part is, and I don't get mean with the, I don't get mean with the Scientologists or the people that were talking to him because honestly, a lot of them probably do believe what they're saying because they've grown up in it or they believe it. So you can't get angry at somebody for their beliefs until the only part that angers me is the abuse mostly. Oh, did I say that right? I didn't go to college, so I don't have big words. So oh, absolutely, absolutely, that would be perfect. That was the only thing he was good at, Mary Sue, because I did a little I did research his history. He failed at everything. Everything. He even failed in the Navy. He failed at one of his schools. He couldn't pass the entrance exam for the Naval Academy. Um he did well sometimes with his writing, but they were poor before Dianetics, before actually in the 30s and 40s, they were living on his writings and they weren't doing very well. So the only thing this man was good at was manipulation and charm and making things sound good. And that's the saddest part is that he could do that. If only he had been bad at that, we wouldn't be here right now. Thanks, Amy. Uh, sometimes. Sometimes, I guess. I share. I share. Yeah, I'm not going to read that next chapter. The chat is, that just gives us a little bit more time to talk about it. So, yeah, I mean, there was this. I know some of you haven't heard every chapter, but it was recent. Let me see if I can find it. It was the beginning of one of the chapters, and the way he made it sound, it would make me want to delve into this. Yeah, it was this part. He makes it sound really awesome. It was in Preventive Dianetics, and he says, there are many branches of Dianetics. It is actually a family of sciences covered by a single set of axioms. There is, for instance, educational Dianetics, which contains the body of organized knowledge necessary to train minds to their optimum efficiency and to an optimum of skill and knowledge in the various branches of the works of man. And he goes on to say, and there are political Dianetics, which embraces the field of group activity and organization to establish the optimum conditions and processes of leadership and intergroup relations. And it goes on a little bit. But that right there just makes the whole thing sound so scientific and like this guy knows what he's talking about. And I would join. I mean, you see how interested I am about stuff like that. I would have went to a Dianetic center and a Dianetic course for sure. Yep. Yep. That's exactly what I was just saying. He created a whole system and attracted a lot of people who wanted to learn how to manipulate. Not necessarily, well, maybe. It does. I will get into that. It got so big and scary for a while, but now it's getting smaller, thankfully. Yes. I am worried about that with all of this spotlight on them as protecting the predators in Scientology. I have in the back of my mind worried that it might attract new wrong people, if you know what I mean. Yeah, he's really good with the word salad. One thing is very sure of, I was very sure of, is belief is more effective than science in many cases. My belief in LRH gave me many benefits in many ways, but it hid ever seeing the abuses completely from my eyes. And I understand that too. I understand that there are probably people I'm talking to that can hear me inside that haven't seen everything that we've heard about. And I'm hoping that some of the things I say about what's going on, that maybe they'll start to look around, and I tell them that it's not okay, and that like the auditing of children is illegal outside of the church, and that maybe they'll think about that a little bit. That's all I can hope for. Oh, wow. Yeah, and they're really pushing this book again. And yeah, I'm sorry too. Um, a lot of people come by with the South Park episode, and I tell them it's all true. You know, because some people like it's so whacked out that they're like, "Oh, well, this can't be true," and it is. But yeah, I am too. I had somebody do that in my life, and it's hard to deal with. Thing, very dangerous ideology. It is, and hopefully that's at least my hope, and I think most of the hope of I call it the activists, the protesters are activists, and anybody else helping to speak out about it. We can only hope that under the radar or people inside are able to find what we're talking about. And even if they listen to one of our readings and then us talking about it, of how we see it from the outside looking in, and then we have people like you that we're in that come in and tell us, help us understand it too. Even if one person hears it and gets out later, we never know, it might be 5 years from now, then what we're doing is worth it, to my mind, to me. So, and better understanding better understanding you guys and people that are still in, I think has helped me in my protesting. early on, I just shouted different things, and you're supposed to be asleep. Yeah, he's supposed to be asleep. He had to work on the roof today, so that's like you or me working on our roof at 3 o'clock in the morning. I did too. But yeah, that makes sense, what he said. Yeah, that when you're in it and you're every day, every minute of every day, and they don't let you think for yourself, they don't let you have an original thought, then you see these people standing outside yelling stuff. Even if all they hear from me is, you know, David Miscavige drives a Bentley and you guys make $200 a week. Make that make sense. Even if that's the only thing they hear, that might make them think and be like, well, or when they don't get paid, I might, Aaron even said when he got out and he found out that the church had $1 billion in the bank, if he would have learned that when he was still in and a believer, he would have been livid. He already was, but he would have been livid because of all the fundraising they made them do. And so just that one thing would have been enough for him. So those are the kind of things. My hair is laying weird. So you never know what's going to click with somebody. So, and having you survivors in our chats helping, I've gotten a lot of really great ideas, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from you guys, AA and CC and anybody else that was in. Um, yeah. Okay. It, even knowing that there are people against the church and fighting against it helped me. Good. I hope so. Uh, Thank you, CC. That's what makes me want to do it. Is you guys. Uh, so, like I said, if I can get one person in the Austin org to either not go in at all or get across to them that they can get out and maybe they do someday, that would be awesome. And I'll be honest, this has been an eye opener in many, many, many ways, because before I started reading it, I knew the the gist from the survivors, right? But I never realized how much effort he put into control, how much effort and study he put into the environment and creating this environment that would keep people under control. And so until like I've never delved this much into any cult. I've watched the documentaries on Jim Jones. That was a big one. I think that happened when I was young in the 70s. I'm not sure. And things like that. But you don't really know the mechanics of it all. And when you finally sit, I mean, we're halfway through, and the mechanics of it is just wow. Just way, way more involved than I ever suspected. Especially the game comment. That really just showed his whole personality, his whole thought process. Because I've seen chats and super chats and survivors talk about, well, do you think L. Ron Hubbard really believed his BS? And now I don't think so in any way. Before, I thought, okay, maybe he wrote it. Maybe he really thought this was real, or some of it was real. Oh, okay. Well, I hope it doesn't upset you too much. Um, but I hope it does help. Yeah. Yeah. Now, after reading this and delving into his history and everything he had done prior, no, I don't believe for a minute he believed any of this. I think it was all, he was a science fiction writer. He wrote fiction to get what he wanted, and he liked being on a pedestal, and he liked being in control. His mental, let me bring it up real quick, because I meant to bring it up one day and I didn't. uh Give me just a second. It's to bring it up, because I forgot where I had found it, and all I did, it was I clicked on his mental illness. Let's see if I can find it. Is it after the war? um the Wikipedia article is, I have to find where they said his mental illness and then click on it, and I'm not sure where it was. um, Legacy. Dang it, where was it? Life. Okay. So I don't know where they talk about. Ah, no, that's what he said. Pre-war fiction, military career. That was sad. That's why he created the Sea Org, because his career in the military was so bad. It's got to be in here somewhere. In after the war. Oh, now I've lost it. If I can't find it real quick, I'll stop. It won't take too long. Um, Dang it. Because we know what it was called, but when you go and you read what is actually, sadism was part of it, which that was a very interesting. It should be in blue. I'm looking at everything that's in blue, and I can't find it. Sea Org, it's not going to be in there. Well, I can't find it. Let me see if I can find it. L. Ron Hubbard's mental illness. See if it comes up. Ah, there it is. Malignant narcissism. It's hard. Hold on. Okay, here it is. Got it. All right. Malignant narcissism is what they said. Somebody said he had. Um, Malignant narcissism is a severe form of narcissistic personality disorder. It combines traits of narcissism, antisocial behavior, aggression, and sadism. People with this condition often have an inflated sense of self-worth, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. They may also exhibit manipulative and abusive behaviors without remorse. When I read that, it now that was a different article because I searched it differently, but it said um, destroying the humanity in people. It actually said that. I know, I tried to find it once before. I finally just typed it in and found it. Thank goodness. Malignant narcissism. Never heard that term before. I've heard a lot of different narcissisms, but not that one. So, Um, oh, I hope so. AA, that would be my dream. Not necessarily to inflate me, but to know that what I did worked. That would be the culmination of everything. That would be cool. You did? That is awesome that you got to see him. That's awesome. He's done a lot. Oh, wow. Yeah. He never got it, but valid diagnosis. But that's the belief of what he had. To be honest, it's dead on to me. There were some other things that um, some other things that made him a prolific writer. I mean, who writes a policy on how to wash windows except somebody that can't stop writing? So, all right. Oh, I missed some. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. I did learn that in his research that he was very sick, and I think he really hoped. Um, he, See, this is where, unless I study it for a long time, I can't remember. It's in my notes, which I took that pad and put it in the car the other day. I need to get it back out. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Because he had a psychiatrist sign off on Dianetics who helped promote it. And then, even after, when everybody else read it and it came out that it was complete bullcrap, he turned on him too. So he knew people in psychiatry. Yeah, yeah. They're really not supposed to. Oh my gosh. If you watched the Johnny Depp trial, do you remember that guy that tried to say he diagnosed Johnny Depp from watching his movies? He literally said that on the stand. If you haven't seen that, oh my god. That was their expert witness. Yeah. You really can't. I mean, I get it. It could also have been just the drugs he was on. Yeah, that's true. So it's true, but it we have a lot of history with L. Ron Hubbard, more than, say, somebody that just speaks. This guy wrote a lot. We know a lot of people that was in his life, and we know about his whole life. So I think they could probably get pretty darn close. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I need more moisture. Yeah, we can only guess. Yep, he did. And I think that's why we talked about that on the street the other day. I think that's why he hated psychiatry so much, because he tried to get help and they didn't give it to him, and he turned on them. That's absolutely true. Wow, you guys, that is kind of interesting, you guys. I was watching your conversation. So, well, you're both out now, thank goodness, and we're happy you're here. So, I think I'm going to wind this down. I try to keep it around an hour, but some of these chapters are super long. So, next time is called Release or Clear. Gotta switch glasses again. The object of Dianetic therapy is to bring about a release or a clear. That's going to be an interesting chapter. So let's see how many pages. It's short. Oh my goodness. That's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. And then it goes, the next chapter is the auditor's role. I'm actually very interested in that. And you know what? It's short too. And then it goes into chapter 4, diagnosis. Let's see how long that is. Okay, that one's longer. We're going to do 2 chapters next week. We're going to do Release or Clear, chapter 2, and chapter 3, the auditor's role. So those sound very interesting. I'm curious about what he has to say about the auditor's role early on, because I know things have changed. I'm completely blind again. Yeah, I know. But I'm not a professional, so I can say what I want. Yeah, that is interesting, you guys connecting that way. I do drink a lot of water. You're very, very welcome. Very welcome. You know, I've had my issues in my life, and I didn't get help. I actually, okay, I wanted to go into research, but my thought process of going into psychology at the time when I was younger was I wanted to treat kids, because I tried to get help as a kid. We went to one session. My mom was a completely horrible person. It went badly, and I never wanted to go back. And the only reason I'm halfway normal is my grandmother, my dad's mom. My mom let me see her anytime I wanted. So I had a really close relationship with her. So I had a good role model. So I was lucky in that regard. If I didn't, my other sister, my half sister, when my dad left her mom, she hated him and hated his family, and she literally lived a mile from my grandmother and never let her see her. And she has way more issues than I do, because her mom was like my mom. I don't know how my dad married 2 of the same women. He did not have very good. Thankfully, he stopped after 2. So I mean, I can never understand being in a cult, you know, but I know. Oh God, how was I trying to put this? I can't put it into words really. I understand not getting help the way and when I needed it. How, if that makes sense. And I can understand if I had been introduced to Scientology or Dianetics at that time, I probably would have been all in. Hey, Helgier. Amy, sometimes people will control the therapy and never acknowledge their problems. Oh, God, yes. All I ever wanted was an apology from my mom. What I got was, I never did that. I never said that. I gave up. Somebody that lives in their own fantasy world, you can never get an apology from. So, that it's much easier to start by just standing there with a phone than to put an hour show together. Oh yeah, I mean live streaming versus pre-recorded, definitely. Because the one pre-recorded show I've done, which was 11 minutes, it started out way long. I didn't want it to be long, and I cut it and I redid it. Or I'm just not in the mood to just sit in front of the camera. It's so much easier live, and I don't know how to put that. I get why Aaron does it. I watched his pre-recorded videos, and then I watched when he said that he, in January 2023, I was watching him, and he said, I'm going to do live videos 2 or 3 times a day. It pre-recorded editing videos is too hard. So even those short videos I want to do, it's taking me forever to get them out. It's just, I'll be sitting here and I have time to record and just something will get in the way. And so when I did my video, it was actually for family and friends of why and how I became an activist at 55. That was supposed to be a pre-recorded video, and I had like notes of what I wanted to say. And I just put it off, put it off, put it off. I finally, you know what? I'm just going to do it live. And I did. And it was easier. So I really do. Yeah. Standing there with live streaming is obviously you just turn it on, you do your thing, you turn it off. You don't have to edit. You don't have to worry about how great it looks and that kind of stuff. And then you can interact. That, I think that's why it's hard for me to do pre-recorded videos, is live you get to interact with people and you get good questions, you get good conversation going that you wouldn't think of yourself. So I'm going to end here. We've gone an hour 20. Editing is hard, plus perfectionism kicks in. Yes, it does. So I've gotten to where, I don't have the greatest camera or the greatest lighting, but I just finally just went and did the video and it seemed to be okay. Thanks, Diana. Y'all take care. I'll be out. I'll probably be out tomorrow. I'm trying to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday because I want to be there Friday night. So if I try to do any other days, I end up with somewhere back-to-back days, and that's just too hard. So I'll see y'all tomorrow if you're able to. I know you're going to be at work, Diana, teaching those kids. All right. Bye. Have a good week.